We started making names right away, and I loved it. I was robbing drug dealers, taking their gold right off their neck, and the shit we did, who's gonna call the police on you? A drug dealer?
I can identify with anything that was normal, to be honest with you. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
99% of the time, you're gonna disappear.
Just like the Donnie Brasco situation with Lefty.
Yeah, because the reason why they figure it this way. You brought this guy around, he ratted on everybody, now he ratted on you. You might turn around and join him and rat on us, so we get rid of you. There's no connection between there and there, and they get rid of you.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Derek Galanis. What's up, man?
How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
Good, man. Same old grind. Working a regular job's a lot different than what I used to do.
Shit, I see you on TikTok like it's a regular job for you.
Yeah, I have the dream that someone's going to use me as an MMA or boxing commentator. So I try to be on there as much as I can.
Is that why you're there, to try to get an opportunity from it?
Yeah, no, listen, I've been following, I've been a martial artist since I was in the first grade, right? And I've been a boxing fan and all of that. Like, if there's anyone qualified to talk about that stuff, it's me. So I'm just throwing it out into the world until they see the light.
Yeah, so you're into boxing and things. So what did you think of the John Gotti III fight? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the scrum, which everybody watched, right? Look, man, so Floyd Mayweather is doing brilliant things. He's making more money for fighting guys that he could never lose to in a million years than he was making for fighting real tough professional fighters. So, money is really the right nickname for him. I mean, man, he's doing the right thing. As far as Gotti Jr. goes, man, he's just on a different level than Floyd, right? Floyd's been doing it his whole life. So, when you get frustrated in the ring, especially you get frustrated when the ref calls it and tempers flare. Was it scripted? I don't know. It looked kind of fake.
It did. It looked really scripted, man. To me, it did. And it was Floyd's referee. Like, how does that make any of it fair at all? Like, it just doesn't, man. It was... A lot of people think that they made a mockery of boxing and all that. What are your thoughts of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, how do I say this? I think the Jake Pauls, Logan Pauls, Floyd fighting Gotti, it's all good because it gives the sport exposure. People don't realize, I remember growing up a boxing fan, if you were lucky, you'd catch it once a month on CBS on the weekend or ABC, if you were lucky. And there weren't fights every month. What the UFC has done is raise all combat sports ships. Boxing's never been healthier. Now, all kinds of pundits will tell you how sick it is. That's because boxing always has said that. Like, oh, we're in trouble, we're this or that. Boxing has never been better, man. There's never been more money in it. There's never been more premier champions. And that's really thanks to the UFC. And I know the boxing fans don't want to thank MMA, but, look, it's better for everybody.
What's the percentage of MMA fighters that cross over into boxing?
Oh, a Staxx, almost zero. And let me give you the reason why. Like, the level of striking in MMA is so low. They wouldn't have any prayer in a boxing ring. And let me just give you the example. I mean, I was a pro kickboxer, but I was a ham and egger. It's not like I was a name or anything. And I could outstrike most of the UFC guys that I would spar with in the gym. So, I mean, the bottom line is you can imagine when a guy like Floyd is in there against an MMA guy. Now, look, that's what makes MMA so much more exciting, though, right? The level's lower. There's so many arts to learn. There's no way your level can be high at boxing, right? It's impossible because you got to worry about ground game, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kicking, and everything else. So, it makes for a more exciting sport. There's flaws in everyone's game. And even recently, I don't know if you saw the Sean Strickland fight against that German Russian guy Abus, but Abus was like a Taekwondo guy moving around, and Strickland just kind of waited him out. Got beat up the first round, took him out the next round, and it was just literally a clash of styles. People, got sick of boxing because it can be very boring, right? Like Floyd, in this defensive shell is not what people want to see. But yeah, man, very few MMA fighters going over to boxing. I guarantee it. Bare knuckle might be different.
I remember who was it? It was Forrest Griffin and I think Stephan Bonner boxing, right? In the MMA ring, in the octagon. And do you remember that fight?
Yeah, listen, I was in prison in Sandstone, one of the greatest fights of all time.
Yeah.
And it really kicked off the UFC. Not only did the show do it right after WWE, but that fight was the one that said, look, this stuff is really exciting, man. Beautiful.
Yeah, you could see the the aura beaming off them after they were done fighting. You could see it was insane. I never seen nothing like it in my life.
Yeah, a perfect fight to kick off, MMA as a juggernaut, right? And what happened to Bonner after that's really sad. I mean, he passed away. He got involved in opioids, but man, that's the fight game. There's people looking for that rush, that adrenaline rush, and sometimes they get it in bad ways.
Yeah, shout out to Jason Reinhart. He's top of his game, man. He's a UFC veteran. I don't know if you know Jason Reinhart.
I'd have to see him.
I've had him on the show, and
cool.
He's a funny guy, man. He's pretty funny. He's got some. If you've seen him, you would know. He's in that documentary about the UFC.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Staxx. What MMA teams reminded me of, keep in mind when the UFC busted out, I was in prison, right? It was like 2004. And I'm thinking to myself, I was a high school wrestling champion. I was a kickboxer, karate guy. I wish I was out, man. This is my time. Not realizing I had deficiencies with jiu-jitsu and all that. But anyway, the point is I get out in 2008 and I started training with a lot of them. And I found a lot of the teams, at least the teams I were with, was like a high school environment. But think about it, man. These kids go to college to wrestle. They drop right into MMA. They're superstars. They never have to grow up, so it can become like a toxic environment in some places. Now, that changes team to team. It was just the teams that I unfortunately found myself around.
Oh, did you find it like some of the people were taking it serious, some of the people weren't? Was it like a staggering difference, or was it a lot of people just not taking life serious at that point?
No, man, I think as athletes, they were very serious, right?
Yeah.
But I think at a maturity level, and this goes for any professional athlete, right? Like they get money thrown at them so early. Why? Because they're good at a sport, right? And then all of a sudden, and you think about MMA, and this is any sport that starts, the guys who were first stars weren't really that good, but it didn't matter, right? They were the ones who were there, and they take the glory, and all power to them. So, look, growing up can be hard. Look, when colleges recruit, they look for that. Does this guy drink? Does he party? Let's stay away from guys like that. But yeah, I found that to be, and look, but I've trained with a lot of teams. I found other teams to be very serious. That's why you need a real coach who's kind of overseeing it, not a figurehead, but someone who's really watching.
Yeah. Militich Fighting Systems. He fought with them.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the first camps, right out in Iowa. He opened it up, and yeah, a lot of guys went out there, and I would say that was the first good MMA school.
Yeah, they taught a lot of people, and legends in the game went through that place. So when I was in prison, I wanted to be into music. I was into music back in the day, right? And when I seen certain people making it on the scene, I was like, damn, that could be me too. I was the same way. I was thinking the same way. Like, I wish I was out for this opportunity. How come I don't have it? I was always thinking like that. And you were thinking the same way, huh?
Oh, exact same way, brother. I mean, you have no idea. It was exactly what you're saying. You're like, oh my God, man, I was made for this. I was striking so much longer than these guys. I did the wrestling. And I thought, but look, we make sacrifices by going to prison. The dumb decisions we make, right, rob us of our chances. And that was a chance I had that just wasn't to be, man.
When you got out, what was your main focus? And when you got out of prison, was it what you expected when you were in prison thinking about getting out? Was it what you
Well,
expected?
let me be real honest with you. So the first time I got out of prison, I was ready to go right back to crime, right? And I think if I wasn't like that, if I had my head on straight like the first time, I would have gotten into MMA. I was only 36, right? I was in the shape of my life. Like I told you, I was beating up those UFC fighters. I mean, that would have been a natural move for me. But I was clouded by the crime. You know how it is, Staxx. Drinking, drugs, women, all goes with, that sort of lifestyle. And MMA became kind of a hobby to me. Like my training in my day was kind of like the only thing that took energy, because a lot of the criminal stuff we didn't take that kind of energy.
Yeah, so you would burn out all your energy with training and then mentally exhaust yourself with the criminal aspect of it.
And then drink and drug at night, my man.
Yeah, like so you're really like jogging in place, really. You're not getting anywhere, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, how do you make weight when you're doing stuff like that? How do you? But look, it's like this too. I mean, I already had more money than most of those pro MMA fighters had. You know what I mean? So in my mind, it was like, why would I ever do that when take a risk, have to go up in front of people and have to work really hard and be sober? I was already making more money than them. Why would I do that?
When did writing a book come into your mind? Was it on
So
your first time in prison or the second time?
no, brother, not at all. Listen, so the first time I got out, I rejoined my family. We committed another crime. We stole $20 million, and my cut turned out to be zero, which I was really shocked about. Because keep in mind, I protected my father and my brother on the drug case too. Like they could have been in jail, but I took that
What
on
was
the
the
head.
scheme? Can you tell the scheme on how you guys were trying to get this money or how it was
Yeah.
able to happen?
So Jarova Financial, which was the second case, was really just a straight pump and dump, which your listeners know from the Wolf of Wall Street. I think the thing that made it so different is it wasn't some penny stock on the pink sheets. It was a New York Stock Exchange listed SPAC. Now all the money in the SPAC went back to the investors, but there was still a shell, and that shell was listed on NYSE. And there's no more premier listing in the world than that. So suddenly you got a bunch of criminals, the Galanis crime family, running around being able to promote, a BS insurance company and financial service conglomerate on the New York Stock Exchange. And we took in a lot of money because people figure, well, it's not on the New York Stock Exchange, it's got to be legit.
Yeah. How do they get? Hold on, I gotta close this door real quick. Hold on one sec. How do you get a not legit stock to look legit? Like how would that even be possible?
Well, brother, I mean, think of it this way. Like, we have to have confidence and trust in everybody. My brother and my father are very convincing. They talk the talk and walk the walk of the financiers about what they're going to do. That's why reputation is so important. When you're dealing with people in that business, you got to look at what they did before. For the life of me, Bill, I don't know why anyone would do business with my brother and father, but I can tell you this. I know they still will, and I know they're still doing it. And that's just how people are, man. Charm, charisma, that goes a long way in this world. And by the way, and that goes, forget just finance, MMA too. You know how many of those coaches are complete BS? They don't have me in their corner. Instead, they got these guys that became MMA coaches when MMA became a sport. But, listen, charm, guile, people love to hear a story, and fighters love to be stroked. Most people like to be stroked, man. How often have you seen it at your job? The guy gets in there and, gets in the ear and suddenly he's promoted and he doesn't work at all. He's a complete buffoon. It doesn't matter. Yeah. The owner's happy.
Yeah. As long as the face of the company is there doing his whatever he does there, right?
Yeah.
So what was your position in this scheme? What would you have to do?
Yeah, so my job was with New York Stock Exchange listed stocks. Europeans have free trading stock before the rest of the people have it. So if you got a European individual, you can, sell through him and reclaim that money if it's the kind of deal we had. So I used my contacts in Kosovo. One of my friends, because right before I went to prison the first time, I was in Kosovo for 2.5 years. So one of my Albanian friends, those guys are as tough and loyal as they came, said, "Yeah, Derek, I'll do it for you." We paid him like 300 grand, and we used his name and took down 20 million. And I thought my share would at least be his share, or probably more. But joke was on me. I didn't even get. I got nothing.
So you set it up with this guy, and you
Yeah.
have him go through your guy, pay him all this money, and then they cut you out of the deal.
That's exactly what they did. And what the guys, and that's why, honestly, the new form of organized crime is so much worse than the old form. The old form, don't get me wrong, there's rats around, guys do sleazy things, but there can be consequences. Now, no, in finance, there's no consequences. My dad figured, well, I don't need Derek anymore. And then my dad tried to get in my Albanian friend's ear. He didn't realize how loyal that guy was. So every time my dad sent him a message, the guy would tell me, like, "Dude, your dad's talking to me again." So
they're trying to do stuff, but without you around, because they don't need you because they have the guy already.
Yeah, that's what they thought.
And you spoke to your father and brother after this all happened?
Yeah, so Staxx, how do I say this? And this is weird, man. Like, it happened around 2011, 12. And you're caught in that lifestyle, right? Like, I'm still getting like my nut from them every month. So now I realize, like, my nut that they're giving me is all I get. And I always used to make a joke, like, I commit federal crimes and my daddy gives me an allowance, because that's what it felt like, man. You know what I mean? I get a little fucking allowance, and I get to go to jail for, my last time I signed for 8 to 10. I only got 6, but yeah, it just wasn't worth the squeeze, man. I realized, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, because obviously I'm never going to make any money. Those guys are real good at putting dreams in your head. Like, we're all going to get rich. We're going to have multi-million dollars, and don't worry about it. But then when it comes down and there's $30 million on the table, they spend it all.
What do they spend the money on? So, like, hey, you've been around when they've gotten chunks of money, right? And you've gotten chunks of money yourself. What are some of the things you splurged on? What are some of the things that your father, brother splurged on?
Well, my father and brother, like, so my brother, Bentley's, he had a mansion in Beverly Hills. He had a penthouse in Manhattan. My brother really lived that lifestyle. My dad, he was a lot more like me. He wasted it on frivolous stuff. My dad had a second family going. My dad had any number of girlfriends. And I blew my money mostly on professionals and partying, because I didn't, Staxx, I wasn't dialed into any of it. Just, for me, it was all very fleeting, until I realized that I was committing felonies for I could have made that money in a job, legitimately. But yeah, what can you live and learn, man.
Yeah, and you didn't have to go to prison for all those years, but
no.
look what it made you come up. Look what it made happen in your life. You wrote this book. You have a promising career in the podcasting industry. You're trying to get you're trying to be a teacher, right? Of martial arts. Yeah,
well, I already am a teacher, so that dream is lived. I'd like to be an announcer for an MMA outlet. You look, yes, Staxx, if I didn't go to jail, I would not be the person you see before you today. Yeah, I mean, my human growth took place in there. Like, I mean, my family, the environment is so toxic, it's really hard to have human growth there. They don't want you to.
It is hard, because I've been in prison on both occasions where I didn't want to do the right thing, and I've been in prison where I did want to do the right thing. And you're living like 2 different ways when you decide to make that change, and you're serious about it, and you're not with the bullshit in prison. It's a really different way to live.
Yeah, brother. I mean, yeah, I hear you. I mean, for me personally, I always was very serious in prison. But it was my focus point when I got out. Like the first time I was in prison, brother, I learned finance and economics. Like I was a walking dictionary when I got out. Like my vocabulary in English was unbelievable. And my brother and father, I thought like, well, this will be a weapon for them. They'll use me. No, no, no. They put me in a corner. They didn't want to talk to me.
They probably thought, oh, the heat's probably on him because he just got out of prison. How many times were you working with your brother and father? And was it the second time you went to prison for them too?
Both times I went to prison for them. I mean, brother, the drug case like came out of like that was a friend of my father's in Terminal Island. He was with Rosario, my father, and all those guys. An Italian guy named Alba. And Alba, I was like 22 years old. And I'm not look, I mean, my father, I can't blame anybody for my own actions, but I would never bring a drug dealer home and introduce him to my son and then go, well, yeah, it's my son's decision. No, that's irresponsible as a father, but that's who he is, man.
So Rosario Gambino, can you explain the first time you've ever met Rosario and what was he like as a person?
Well, to tell you the truth, Staxx, I can't remember the first time I ever met him because I met him so many times in there, right? We visited our father 3 times a week, right? So I don't remember the first time. I can tell you my impressions of him. A very, very calm, very, very mature guy that talked in a manner that, befit his position. Like Rosario was someone to admire. And my father, I wouldn't say that so much. Rosario took 45 years on the chin, kept his sons on the straight. He did the opposite of what my father did. Like I'm complaining about Alba, but like Rosario made sure Tony and Tommy didn't fall into that, trap. So the real man all the way around that guy was.
So you kind of hold resentments towards your father for not like being like, I shouldn't have my son around this shit, right?
Well, so let's make the comparison, right? John Gotti, he dragged his son into it too, right? And then, at the end, there was some, acrimonious words when the son wanted to take a plea deal and whatnot. And, what did Shinji Gigante supposedly say to him at that meeting? John was bragging his son was made. He goes, well, I'm sorry. Rosario was the type of guy. It's not that Tommy and Tony aren't made. They are, Rosario is a very traditional guy. But you can be made and not do stupid things that are going to ruin your life as well. So yeah, that's what he did for them. My father did the opposite. He dangled everything in front of us and said, choose. And, Staxx, I was 22 years old, man. What are you going to choose? The guy dangles a boat of ecstasy in front of your face. Can you sell that? Of course I can. Yeah. So, yeah, whatever.
Of course, you got all your friends and things, and you wanna impress your father, right? You want to be like, I could do this. I could show you I could do this.
You bet. That's why I went to Kosovo, man. Kosovo was a really, really rough place. That's why whenever these mobsters like want to talk to me about whatever and say, well, you weren't on Bensonhurst doing that. So wait a minute, dude. None of you guys went to Kosovo when you were 27 and lived with the KLA and Albanian mafia for 2.5 years. So don't give me your, tough guy stories.
So what was it like going to Kosovo? And what was it like your experience there? What, like, you went there and got off the plane, and what was your move?
Well, so the airport was shut down at the time. They had a crash or something. So you fly into Macedonia. But let me just say, like, Staxx, look, I was 27, young, dumb, full of cum. I loved the place. Where a man is really a man. You know what I mean? Eastern Europe was a whole different world. It meant nothing. Like, everybody threatened each other as like part of doing business. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm home. I love this. Of course, I was young and stupid, man. Thank God I got out of there with my skin. There were a couple close scrapes, but I did. And, I talk about that too. When the cops finally threw me in jail, I recognized, like, I got lucky, man. I could just as easily be dead. And this is a break for me.
Especially being an American citizen, being in Kosovo, they could be like, you know what? You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, right?
Yeah, brother. So I had a guy over there. I brought 2 big dudes over there with me. And the second one, he got kidnapped. and they beat the shit out of him. And yeah, it was really ugly. We had to go out and search for him. We didn't know where he was. Now, I think some of his own fault laid in there. Look, I'm a cautious guy. I may do some crazy things, but I'm always watching my back. A lot of kids from America are not like that. You know, they get drunk. They think they can act like the same morons there as you did here. You can't do that, man.
And have you seen that happen before? Have you seen other Americans get in trouble in other countries? And
Well, so another story from Kosovo. I think it was, I don't want to say Secret Service guys. They were some type of government guys, right? And they got in an argument over with some locals, Albanian guys, over the girls. And the Albanian guys said, okay, we'll be back. And sure enough, the Albanians came back with like metal rods and beat the living daylights out of those guys. And Staxx, one of the things I knew right away, and this was intuitive more than anything, I'm not going to touch an Albanian girl here. Meaning, like, that is your property. I'm in your country. I'm a guest. Doesn't mean I didn't touch other girls, but girls that were that because that's what really inflames emotions, right? Suddenly you're integrating yourself into the family and you're defiling something. And I didn't do that. My friend wasn't quite as smart.
oh, so other people would do that. They would be in another country. They'd see women and be like, hey, I'm whatever, right? But the guys in that country are not thinking that way because they will defend their homeland, as you would say.
Yeah, depending on the area, like Latin America, I know there's a lot of people that go and do that and whatnot. And listen, if you stick to professional, sexual tourism is an industry. But if you try to be Don Juan on the street, picking up local girls, suddenly you're offending. You're a out of town guy coming into a different pool. And one of my that was my guideline in Kosovo. Like, I do not touch an Albanian girl. I'm respectful to all of them. And I think more than anything, that kept me safe.
And your friend was able to get out of that alive?
Yeah, barely. They beat him up real good. But like I said, he was messing around with, a local low-level mob guy's sister, and it is what it is. We all make our own decisions, Staxx. And usually we think with a small head.
Hey, like that guy Vandersloot, right?
Joran Vandersloot?
Yeah, Natalie
They
Holloway.
just extradited him, didn't they?
Yeah, and well, so wasn't he in a Latin country and he killed a local woman? He killed the local girl, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a serial killer, though, man. I mean, look, he like had another murder case after that. He was in Aruba, right? But they're all Dutch citizens, and he was like a white Dutch guy. But he's killed like 2 or 3 girls that way. I mean, the guy's a whack job. I mean, that's almost that's an exceptional comparison. You know what I mean?
I thought he was in Colombia and they were trying him there. I thought they were probably going to give him the death penalty. Did they extradite him here?
So what I heard, and I don't know if I'm right, I thought he was in Aruba. And all those Caribbean countries are right next to each other, stacked. So who knows? And they threw him in jail for an unrelated murder. But the murder of the girl that came from the heartland of the United States, they finally got him extradited. So he's coming here to serve time for that, is my understanding.
Oh, man, I don't think he'll do very well in a United States prison, man. Being a Dutch guy who killed an American citizen. Do you think, how would they treat him here?
I don't know, man. If he goes to feds or state or whatnot, depends on the level of prison he goes to. You know how it is. It's just,
Yeah, if he goes to a camp, it'll be a little easier for him.
Well, he ain't going to a camp, brother. I'll tell you that right now.
No, not with murder charges like that. No, you're going to an FCI, right?
At least the bare minimum.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have fun. He'll probably spend the rest of his life in there.
Yeah, Americans? Come on, no, he's never getting out, man. No way.
What about Rosario? He's locked up now, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, so Rosario got deported, and he fought that for a long time. And they sent him over, and he had legitimate reasons. He's like, look, my life's in danger. You can't send me back there. That's why we left in the first place. They sent him back. And, the Italian cops arrested him on some BS charge about internet gaming. Like, he sent a WhatsApp message to somebody about internet gaming, and they based that on organized crime. Now, to me, that's him living like he wanted his sons to live, right? That's him trying to go semi-legitimately. But you know how the feds are. I mean, Italian Carabinieri, which is their like mafia police. There were a lot of those in Kosovo. They're ruthless, man. I mean, and the problem with Rosario is he's so strong and he's so tough, he will not break. What do they really want from him? They want him to break, man. They want him to talk, right? But
Yeah,
that's off the table.
he won't do that, right?
No, no.
So,
If he talked, that would be it. He's the last man standing, brother.
so how is it possible? How can they hold them for like extended periods of time just for being linked to organized crime in Italy?
I think so, man. They got really restrictive on their laws over there. And so, you know, if you have organized crime ties, they can do that. I feel, honestly, I feel cut up for the man. I feel terrible for the entire family. Because believe it or not, you know, I knew the family really well, not just the brothers. Like, I'd say hi to the sisters and the mothers. You know, I mean, obviously they're separate. It's not like we're having conversations, but they were there, you know, visiting. And they were family friends. And I feel horrible at the ending for him. I mean, think about that, man. 30 years here in America in prison. He thinks, okay, at least I'm getting out now. He's out for what? Like 6 months and they throw him back in jail?
So he did 30 years.
Something like that.
And what he was in for what? The pizza connection, right?
Yeah, it was the heroin case, yeah.
Yeah.
But there were some murders on that case too, man. So
wow. So he was involved a lot deeper than I'm surprised they didn't try to get him to cooperate before deporting him.
are you kidding me? I guarantee you they did. I guarantee you they did. He said that's not on the table. Rosario's just that way, man. I mean, some people are flexible. You know, Michael Francis, he's flexible. You know, guys like okay, John Gotti Jr., he's flexible, right? John Light is completely flexible, but Rosario's not flexible. You know,
a lot of these guys are flexible, man. They'll tell them anything they want to hear as long as they're able to not do a day in jail.
Yeah, brother. I mean, that's the new way. I mean, unfortunately, they give out so much time, and people now look at it like, what's good for me now? But that's how the world is. We live in a very me culture, which is why crime is dead. You know, organized crime, beyond what I've described in my book, Greed and Fear, doesn't really exist anymore. You know, that's all low level, you know, dumb shit that you're waiting to go to jail for.
Yeah, no one got time for that anymore, man. I'm on a path to outlast all that crime shit.
Me too, brother. Me too. That's part of my past. Rearview mirror, man.
Definitely. So what are the plans for you? Are you going to continue your TikTok fame? Are you just waiting for an opportunity with the MMA? Do you got any direction you want to go? Are you going to write another book?
So let me qualify all of that. So my wife wants me to write a third book, you know, because one of the reasons my crime book wasn't well thought of by publishers, they said there's no triumph in this. And I was trying to tell them, like, well, look, I'm in jail. I don't know what kind of triumph you want. I'm just telling you the facts of what happened. So as far as that goes, I don't know if I want to write another book. What I am doing, I'm about to finish my MBA, Staxx, my master's in business administration.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother. It was a year of hard work, man.
Yeah, that's really big, though.
I'll be real honest with you, though, man. I knew all that stuff from my life of crime. You know, I spent, 4 years reading The Economist and Financial Times in prison. So when I finally had to do the course, now, look, I have ADHD, so nobody diagnosed it, but I know I do. So it's hard. I paced myself. I'll be done this summer. So, you know, look, if nothing takes off, if nobody wants to talk about the Hunter Biden stuff, nobody wants to talk about the Galanis crime family anymore, the MMA community calls me a pariah, I'll get a higher paying job, brother. You know, nothing's going to stop me. I'll just keep pushing.
Hell yeah. So what's your opinion about the goodie bag they found in the White House?
Yeah, no opinion. You know, I mean, you know, look, everybody does blow, right? Like, and the more money you have, the more blow you do, right? So, you know, it doesn't surprise me that someone wandering around the White House is doing blow. Does Hunter do blow? Well, that's not a secret, right? But I highly doubt that was his baggie.
I know, I doubt it. Now they're showing all these videos of him at the White House, like, oh, it's like, come on, they're trying to tie it all together. It's just,
Hey, I'll tell you this. Going beyond the blow there for a minute. So there's in the Marco Polo report, which is on the Hunter Biden laptop. They've got a photo of Hunter meeting with Obama, and this is right about the time where the indictment came down for my brother, his good friend Devin Archer, my father Bevan Cooney, who Hunter knew personally, and like they basically blocked that indictment for Hunter. But nobody talks about it. They go, "Oh, there's no evidence." No evidence. If Hunter was a regular guy, man, he'd be rotting in the BOP right now.
yeah, you would. 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen for a while, though. I think it's going to
No.
take a little bit.
Well, brother, they just made that deal. Look, they gave him the gun charge, right? And they gave him 2 tax violations. He's done. Like, this is a way to cover it up. Like, and they try to assuage people by giving him like some kind of charge, but it's ridiculous, man. I mean,
And what's he going to get?
listen,
Probation? Probation
yeah,
for
he's
that?
going to get probation. Man, listen, they killed Epstein in a cell. If they can kill Epstein in a cell, they can give Hunter a sweetheart deal,
Yeah. I mean, hey, he'll be free to watch the next election, I guess, and we'll see what happens with that one.
What's funny to me, Staxx, is Jeffrey Epstein, forget the pedophilia for a moment and sick stuff. Like, he was exactly the type of criminal I talk about in my book, Underground Financier. Like, he is like what my father was. All that stuff we talked about with the guile and the BS and the fake, stock companies. And, still nobody like makes the connection. Nobody seems to want to talk about it, but it is what it is, man.
Hey, who knows? They were probably rolling in the same circles at some point, right?
Oh, guaranteed, man. My dad rolled in Donald Trump circles, and we know Trump rolled in Epstein circles. So,
Tangled web they weave.
lonely at the top.
People are nuts, but we'll see what happens in the future, and I look forward to seeing where you take things. And hopefully you get an opportunity for real.
Well, I'll make my opportunity one way or the other, brother, with the NBA or whatever it is.
Me too, man. I will not give up until I make something happen, Steve, thanks for joining us, man. Thank you, everyone that joined us. Make sure you go check out his book, Greed and Fear, The Galanis Crime Family. And I'll put a link in the description of this video. You just click on it and buy his book. I get 90% of the cut. Paul C, man, thank you for joining us. Yeah, man, you're welcome here anytime. You know that. And I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you, brother.
Definitely. And if you guys like this type of content, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you could get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like it, start your own podcast. Thanks, man.
Later, brother.